Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 82, the podcast about our lives and love of pop culture. I am your temporary host, OldManStompy, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
So, we were this close to having a true set of understudies, as in the Undertale cast was about to reunite for this week's podcast.
That's right.
But Minty Mitz bowed out, so it's just the two of us.
Oh no, now we're going to have to talk about 2/3 of Undertale instead.
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, like, we did the pacifist route, now let's talk about normal route, but not genocide route, because I haven't seen that.
Well, we did play 2/3 of the game, right? If you
that is
consider
true,
the normal
actually.
route and the pacifist route separate routes, even though they're kind of the same.
Yeah,
basically,
like one of them is like a marker on the way to the other.
Mm-hmm. So, like, have you actually looked up the extra genocide stuff?
I have not.
Mm-hmm. It's worth it. I would say that you lose a lot from the fact that you're not playing it, because part of the message of the genocide route of the game is that for people who like really want to see everything in a game, the game is trying to make you work for it by just making it extremely unpleasant to play.
Yeah, that was going to say, like, the whole point is that you're supposed to feel bad for doing these terrible things.
Yeah, so like by that point, since you know the game is not really that difficult to play at level 1, you know, when you're doing the pacifist route, you can imagine if you're actually leveling up, the game is incredibly easy, and most battles don't present a challenge at all.
Yeah, I think in the main game where I'm playing pacifist, other than the final boss, which is supposed to get you a couple times, how many times did I actually die? Like once or twice? Like once against Muffet for sure, and then I don't like maybe one other time.
Yeah, it was a very smooth recording, and for those who like the behind the scenes looks, you know, at the Lotus Prince Productions, I don't think we really cut any deaths out. It was a very smooth let's play.
No, that is true. Yeah, like in Dark Souls, I've cut like 30 minutes, like a single 30-minute clip from certain episodes. But Undertale, we just we just basically edited the parts where the game literally cut its own feed.
We didn't leave you a lot of like we didn't give you like really a lot of leeway to fail on your own, though. We also kind of, like, in the puzzle bosses, we poked you in the right direction.
That's true, yeah. And there were some things I was quite oblivious to.
It seemed like a relatively popular Let's Play, though, so I'm glad the fan base enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was pretty happy about that.
So, your week.
What? Oh, you mean this week? Oh,
this week.
Oh my god. So, honestly, as for what I've been playing myself, I haven't really been doing too terribly much of that, just getting on at night and playing something just on my own, because I had been doing Yakuza Kiwami, but then I beat that, and, like, I guess a little on and off I've been playing Lego Star Wars for a nostalgia trip, so I recently finished that. So, like, I actually want to play the other Lego games now. I've never done that.
Is that a nostalgia trip for Star Wars, or for Lego, or the game, or, like, all of those things?
For Lego. I played Lego Star Wars in college, but, like, I think I forgot what the context behind how I got that game, but, like, now, like, I have all the Lego games on GOG that are available on GOG, because the only one I actually personally knew about, you know, from experience was Star Wars, which I liked, but I would imagine as each game comes out, certain aspects of gameplay improve, so I'm curious to see what the other ones have to offer. So I don't know if I'm actually going to play it next as my next game, but the next game in the Lego series is Lego Indiana Jones. I'm less passionate about Indiana Jones, but I kind of want to see how the Lego game handles it, so
right.
I'm kind of excited. Plus, I would imagine that it'd be more fleshed out. I don't know if it covers Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I think it might just be the trilogy, but I'm curious to see how that plays out, because Star Wars is covering like 6 games, so each movie itself is rather abridged. So if it's only a trilogy they're dealing with, or even if it is a quadrilogy, then there might be a little more room for, like, more details or stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess the cat's out of the bag a little bit because of the movie, but the Lego franchises were, like, secretly one of the most, like, interesting, like, games in the market. They're, like, really creative reinterpretations of the franchises they're supposed to represent, and I'm kind of surprised that like the owners of the more allowed them to take this much liberty.
Yeah, they did get quite cutesy with a bunch of their stuff. One thing I thought was kind of amusing was I was on Reddit at one point, and somebody was like, "Hey, could somebody point me in the direction of some really good Star Wars video games?" And one of the first responses was Lego Star Wars, and there are some great Star Wars games too. But like Lego really is a great Star Wars game. Otherwise, what I've been playing, because honestly, most of what I've been doing on my downtime has been editing Dark Souls, because it's such a huge Let's Play. So I've just been editing. At this point, I've edited 45 out of 48 parts. I'm excited to almost be done with that. But nice. The funny thing is I recorded the game months ago, so I'm kind of reliving my own Let's Play. It's not like I'm recording the same episode the night of, so I'm like, all right, we're sitting through this again. Like, I vaguely remember what happened, so it's kind of interesting again.
So what's the level of completion of this Dark Souls Let's Play? I apologize if you've told me this before, but like, there's a lot to show off.
I show off every secret, but I don't get every single piece of equipment in the game because you just cannot do that in a single playthrough. Okay. But after I have the whole playthrough up, I actually am going to have a dedicated video showing all weird, unique boss equipment. Just like, here's my perfect file where I have that stuff. So there will be that. But otherwise, I go into all the optional and hidden areas and stuff like that, and I tried doing all the characters' quests. Well, there was one character, I'm not gonna spoil it, but there was one character where I didn't get the outcome I'd hoped for, but it was definitely an ending. So, like, there are two ways this can go, and I got the ending that I did not want, but was actually the more interesting one anyway, so okay. I do properly complete the Onion Knight and his daughter's quest, and that one's a little tricky to get done, because the Onion Knight is basically, oh no, I'm forgetting the name. The guy in Demon Souls, where you have to, like, save him from getting killed by enemies, like, 2 or 3 times. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember. I never played Demon Souls. I don't remember the name. It's like Siegmund or something in this game.
Yeah, it's Siegmeyer and Sieglinde.
Siegmeyer.
Okay. No, here's a question. No, this will actually help me remember it. You had told me before, like, as a joke, that these people had done a podcast where the people who knew nothing of the Souls games were trying to ad-lib talking about the Souls games.
Oscar of Ostrava. Yes.
Ostrava! That's the guy! Okay. That's the guy. Yeah, so Siegmeyer is basically the Ostrava of Dark Souls. Mm-hmm. So, like, there's one part where you need to save him from enemies, and that could go wrong in a couple of ways. So I was able to get that done in the way that I wanted to, which was kind of nice. That one was the part that was stressing me out the most, because you basically have to make it to the end of the game to get to that part. Whereas
I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate because everybody likes that character.
Yeah, and meanwhile with Ostrava in Demon Souls, if not really on a new game, but on a new game plus, you could knock out his quest really quickly. But again, if you screw it up, you gotta beat the entire game to try again. Like, I was sweating when it came to trying to save Ostrava from, like, the 2 Red Eyes Knights. Like, I was like, he shouldn't die, but, like, for the love of God, I do not want to die myself or screw something up. Like, on my playthrough of Demon Souls, where I was not recording, like, when I was just first playing the game, I actually ended up hitting Ostrava. But with the Souls games, you're allowed 1 freebie. If you hit them twice, then they know you meant it. So I was like, oh, don't ruin this, because to complete his quest properly, he has to give you an item. He doesn't drop it. He has to give it to you. So I'm like, please do not mess this up. Like, I was so nervous. But that's like, I guess my Dark Souls bit there. But otherwise, what I've been playing on my downtime is streaming for 2 different games. I've talked about both already, but I've advanced in both. So the first I got a little further in was the Sexy Brutale. Now, we talked about this with Vice and Pyro, but OldManStompy, do you know about this game?
I didn't until I listened to last week's podcast, which is unusual. Usually I was going to say, usually you don't. Yeah. Well, no, I listened through Pyro's segment, and I listened through yours, and then I turned it off when it was Vice's turn.
Perfect. What's he going to recommend? More games I don't like? No, thank you. So, no, the Sexy Brutale is great. So I advanced further in that game, got another power, saved some more lives. Some of those deaths, though, like, I didn't really do much of this before. Like, I always tried, of course, saving these people. But there was one thing I discovered, which I never really realized, is that in the game you can pick up playing cards, and there's 52 of them, and I don't know what happens if you get them all. Maybe they unlock, like, stuff in your database or whatever, But you can also pick up guest invitations, and when you pick those up, those give you character bios in your menu. And a couple of invitations I noticed were by the guests' dead bodies after they'd been killed. So I was like, oh, okay. So I want to let the guests die, and then when it's all said and done, I'll go by their dead bodies and pick up their invitations. Boom. Now, that actually was not the case with some guests, but either way, I was ending up watching some of their deaths, and some of them are like, we already know how they die, but some of them are pretty brutal. Like, there's one person who is blind, and she hears somebody typing stuff on a keypad, and she's like, well, I'm blind, but I've been blind my whole life. I have really exceptional hearing. I can identify what the key code is based on the tone of the keys, like, you could on a phone. So she was like, haha, I'll check this out, just because I've never been in this room before. So she enters the room, and it's just this lair of this giant venomous spider, and that's how she dies. And I already knew about that. But what I didn't know was that she gets KO'd, and then I'm just kind of looking through the keyhole to just wait for the events to be over, and it just takes forever. Like, the spider's just wrapping its web around her as, like, a cocoon, like it kind of did to your character in the beginning of Limbo, and the character's just going like, like, clearly not quite dead yet while being wrapped up, and then the spider finally just delivers like a vicious bite, and I'm like, that took way the hell too long. Like, some of these deaths are kind of uncomfortable to watch.
It's reminiscent of, like, I know you compared the game to Ghost Trick in your segment last week.
It kind of, yeah.
A little bit. And if you remember, like, that game has, like, a really light art style, and you'd think that it would have a light tone, but actually some of the deaths in that game, too, are, like, are really graphic. Like, a guy getting a heart attack, and, like, someone getting crushed by a giant chicken.
Yes. Well, no,
and it's like that isn't by itself bloody, but like when you know in the chicken one, if you go to her shade, then you know that like you're looking at her shadow, and if the chicken wasn't on top of her and it wasn't like really abstract, that would be like a really bloody death.
Yeah. No, and the Sexy Brutale, have you seen the actual game's aesthetic?
I have not seen I've seen a little bit of it, so, like, the reason why I was so excited to hear about this, because it looks really interesting, and it's totally up my alley, and I've seen the name on, like, Reddit or whatever, but there's so many oddball games that come out these days that you can't tell anything about even the name, so, like, I would have never thought to check it out if you hadn't I don't even know how you found out about this game.
I'd seen a couple of recommendations of it before. I've seen a video review on it, and I was like, okay. And I saw it available on GOG, and I was like, I'll wait for a discount. But then eventually it came out, in GameStop in physical form, and I was kind of waffling on it because I was like, the game sounds kind of interesting, but I'm not fully sure of really what it is. And eventually I was like, I'll buy it, and I'll try it out for a stream, because I was thinking, like, the premise of this game sounds like it might be interesting for a stream because the chat can interact with it. Like, what do you think I should do next? So I'm like, we'll try that out. And the game ends up kicking ass. But the reason I was bringing it up, have you seen it, is that it also has a generally light, like, it's difficult to say cartoony. Characters' facial features are very exaggerated, but it doesn't look like a drawn cartoon like Ghost Trick does with, like, that 2D style. But characters look kind of cheapy as you walk around. So some of the deaths, like, the game also does not get ultra-violent, but some of the deaths are really rough. And especially with the dialogue that accompanies them, some of them are like, goddamn, like, this is, like, unnecessarily cruel. Like, even the very first death in the game, when the game's showing you how it works, there's, like, the very first guy is just cornered in a chapel by someone who's ready to kill him. And the guy was like, what do you intend to do? Or, like, what are you doing here? And the guy's like, I intend to shoot you with the shotgun. And he just, like, shoots him. And I'm just like, oh, geez, okay. And, like, but some of the deaths are, like, there was one in particular that was very drawn out for a singer. That was one of the more tragic deaths I watched. Like, that one kind of, in terms of execution, ties with that spider death where it's drawn out for way too long. But with the singer's death, like, the guy who was responsible for it happening, because with the spider, it was just a spider being a spider, but the singer who died was led that way by a person who intended to commit murder, and that guy's dialogue afterward just really laid the stuff on thick regarding his attitude and the disposal of the body, and it's just like, holy shit. But the thing with Ghost Trick is, or the thing with the Sexy Brutale is, like Ghost Trick, you want to manipulate things with a degree of supernatural ability to try to make things happen or not happen, and if you mess up, then you reset the puzzle. There's not really a game over. If you ever hit the time limit, then the game resets the level resets itself, although you can reset whenever you want if you realized you missed something or if you want to take a look at something else. Unlike Ghost Trick, though, it's like I mentioned with Majora's Mask's Bomber's Journal, the more you observe, people in particular locations, the more your map is kind of completed regarding, like, what's happening at 4 o'clock, and you can see everybody's location that you've already personally witnessed. It's very useful. So I suspect the next time I stream, it'll be, like, time to beat the game, because you're in your map, or not your map, but in your inventory screen or your pause screen, you can see a list of guests, and there's like 9, not people, but 9 like portraits. Some of them are couples, like you have to save 2 people at once, and I've dealt with 7 of them, so unless the game springs a surprise on me, I assume that I have 2 levels left. And I'm curious to see where this goes, because even who I am is kind of a mystery, and I don't know why I'm involved in all this, and that's kind of part of the intrigue. Like, right now, it's just save these people, because it's the right thing to do, but I don't know really who. Like, I know who they are professionally, but I don't know who these people are to me, even though they all seem to know me. It's a little weird. I'm curious to see where this goes. So is it one of those situations where, like, the player character knows why he knows all these people, and, like, they're just getting that information from you, the actual player? I'm not sure. I think there were a couple of mentions of, like... my memory's a little hazy about this right now, because I've only streamed this once a week or once every 2 weeks, but, like, I think even the character is kind of a little like, well, I guess I'll roll with this and see where it goes. So, I don't know. So, what's it like streaming a really story-driven game? Do you have problems with people, like, popping into the chat and, like, trying to spoil it? Well, do you have mods? No, I don't, actually. But the thing is, I kind of have 2 kinds of streams going. One of them is a public stream, and one of them is a Patreon stream. So either way, people can pop into the chat. But the Sexy Brutale is a Patreon stream, so I have fewer people on at any given point. And nobody in the chat seems to know the game, which is actually really great. So there are people kind of trying to figure out what should happen, like what I should do. Because there definitely have been moments where I'm like, I'm stuck, and I've actually been helped by the chat multiple times. So it's really cool that there's that degree of interactivity with it. But regarding that, the other game that I've been streaming, which there's a bigger chat for, it's my public stream, but there's no, like, what do I do now factor to it, because I have a guide for this, is Eternal Ring. I've been playing more Eternal Ring, and I've gotten to a point where the guide tells me that I can go to the hidden dungeon, and I'm pretty excited about that, because when you first start the game, you're on a beach in front of a cave. Go in the cave, there's your first dungeon. But if you explore the beach, you can kind of go around this little rocky outcropping, which, if you look at it, you can tell you could walk on it, but at a glance, you might not have considered it, and you can kind of go around, and there's just another cave. And if you go in, you can go down the cave for a ways before you get to a door that you can't open, because the door can only be opened with light or dark magic, and you can't even make that until way later in the game, like where I am now. So I could finally go in that cave. That's like the secret dungeon, which is supposed to apparently be really hard. My guide recommended that you go in at level like 35 at the least, which happens to be exactly my level. So I'm kind of hyped about checking it out. At this point, I have made some pretty cool spells with my rings. I actually have there are 2 levels of summon magic for each element, and I have the level 1 fire, which looks pretty rad. It's just 2 fire swords that just slash the enemies twice, but it looks pretty sweet. But yeah, I have a better arsenal than I used to. The bosses are still mostly a joke. It's more like the regular enemies that are a problem, because there's more than one of them at a time, and some of them can fly, and it's a little frustrating. So I guess we'll see where the secret dungeon goes, but that thing is really, like, a maze. That's what's scary about that place. But apparently it has some really sweet stuff, because, it should. It's the secret dungeon. I went all the way back to the beginning of the game for this. I've definitely done that secret dungeon when I did my own playthrough of Eternal Ring. I don't recall anything... I don't know why. So you actually know why I played that game. It was because
you remember Working Designs?
Yeah.
They hired this guy called the RPG Critic just to write articles and review RPGs from other companies for their website.
Okay.
And he pulled out some of the most obscure stuff from around that era of gaming.
Yeah.
And included Eternal Ring.
Yeah, because Eternal Ring... Go ahead.
Like, what is this game? Like,
well, that's what I was going to say.
Really interesting, yeah.
Like, Eternal Ring is that game that you always saw at GameStop, but never actually bought. And then, like, I actually wanted to play Drakengard, but my disc might be scratched or something. So I'm like, I gotta scratch my weird RPG that I've been meaning to catch up on itch somehow. So, you know, all right, Eternal Ring. And then I played it for like a few minutes, and I was like, actually, maybe I could stream this. So, and it's ended up being more entertaining than I thought it would be, even though if you've played it, then you know those controls are ass.
And it's turned out like to be vindicated by history a little bit, right? Because it's kind of a game that bridges the gap between the Kingsfield series and the Dark Souls series, and now Dark Souls is like the hottest thing in gaming.
Yeah,
or among them.
And there are even a couple of nods. Like, I think the Kingsfield series is actually connected to the Souls series, but Eternal Ring maybe just spiritually. But there are still some nods. You can just tell. You can pick up sacrifice rings that restore you when you die, whereas in Demon Souls it allows you to keep your souls when you die. There are, like, you know, the elemental dragons. The earth one, its face kind of looks like the dragon gods in Demon Souls. Like, there's little weird touches like that, which I think are just kind of interesting. Although one thing that's kind of funny is that, like, this game has more of a plot than the Souls games, but, like, still not much of one. But what just amuses me is that not everybody, but almost everybody I meet just ends up dying. Like, the very first town of the game, it's like, you know, you meet the Watchman, and he's like, oh, I better confiscate your sword. But here's a pass to get one of our official swords. And you could also meet the captain of the guard, and just a regular guard who patrols, and a healing woman. And, like, the captain of the guard turns monster and kills everybody else. And it's just like, oh, well, okay. I thought one of these people was going to go somewhere, guess not. And then the captain of the guard... He's probably going to be, like, the second last boss or something. I mean, you would know, I don't. But, like, I fought him and he leaves. Then there's, like, a new town, which magically people are still alive in. But there's, like, the one survivor from the first town is in a later dungeon you see. And he's like, oh, you actually made it here. Wow, cool, good for you. Well, I'm going to go investigate the next dungeon. And then he's just immediately dead when you go, like, 2 feet into that dungeon. And he has this diary about, I'm changing, I'm not going to have this. There's another guy you meet who's like, I've been cursed in this horrible form, which makes me look like a demon. And I've sent my man out to look for a cure for me. And he's just been searching for 20 years. And I've been like this for 20 years. But you know what? Maybe you can help me too. If you do, I'll make you one of my knights. And in that very scene, he just gets killed. And it's like, all right, well, guess that guy's arc is over.
That sounds like a Souls game.
Well, in the Souls game, actually a lot of people do end up dying, although you can make that happen. But, like, not freaking everybody, though. Like, if somebody has maybe Dark Souls. In Demon Souls, if you go through the Mephistopheles quest, you'll kill a bunch of the people in your Nexus. But in Dark Souls... It is, like, there are some people who definitely survive the whole game, but, like, a lot of people do go hollow. Like, people you wouldn't expect, like, merchants.
It is, like, the epitome of lazy storytelling, that, like, all the characters die because they just couldn't be bothered to think of anything to do with them after you initially meet them.
But the thing is, though, they're merchants. They don't even need to have an arc. Like, like even the Pyromancer, he's just like, if you learn from a better Pyromancer, he's like, dude, where'd you learn those spells? And if you tell him, he's like, I'll go look for those spells. That's freaking crazy. And then when you next meet him, he's just no dialogue. He just runs at you and tries fighting you. the thing is, it's just like, oh, well. But, like, the thing with going hollow, though, is that, like, some characters have it handled in a way that is, like, I think creative storytelling. Like, some of them go hollow in a way that, like, it feels like, oh man, this is a tragedy, as opposed to just like, oh, I guess we're fighting now. Like the priestess from toward the beginning of the game. Like, I don't go this route with her, but like, you could just meet her in in the Duke's archives, and she's just hollow in a cell, and it's like, what? like there's certain stuff that's just weird. But like the thing with Dark Souls anyway, though, is that like, I guess they kind of made this allowable by having going hollow be like a thing that eventually happens to everybody, and you just came at a bad time when like the last remnants of anything is just disappearing. Because that's the thing with Dark Souls, is that like with Demon Souls, the plot is everything's gone to hell. I don't think you're gonna save anybody, but like, I don't know, give it a shot. But in Dark Souls, it's already happened. Like, you missed all the cool stuff, and now everything you interact with is at best a relic of a better time. And so just everything is just decrepit.
It's reminiscent now that I've read the first book of the Dark Tower, where it's like the series already takes place in a post-apocalyptic world, or at least you can infer from the storyline. But you could tell that even after that, there was a time when people lived in like relative peace and harmony and were generally happy. But then, like, by the time the first book actually takes place, you are really dealing with the absolute dregs of like the handful of people who are still clinging to life in a dying world. Yeah,
and again, not only that, but like whatever did happen, like as cool as the Dark Tower is, whatever happened before the events of the Dark Tower, that shit must have been crazy. Because I remember Vice had told me one of the lines that stuck out to him among the most in book 3 when they meet Blaine the Mono is like everything is dead and desolate around them, and I forgot who asked this, maybe Jake or something. He's like, Jesus, like what happened here was a nuclear war, and Blaine was like, oh no, way worse than nuclear war, and they never explain it, and it's like, what? So like something insane must have gone down, and like we're just never gonna know.
And then in the next book they go to the Stand universe, which is also like, if you're anywhere but like the one place where people still live, that's also a real shithole.
Yeah, and even then, there's also like the Dark Tower hints at like, you know, creepy dimensions behind doors, and you don't want to open these, and it's implied that that's basically what happened in The Mist when, you know, everyone's talking like that. Honestly, I think The Mist inspired Demon Souls. Literally, it's the same, almost the same thing. A fog rolls in and demons happen, but like, you know, there's all this talk about where do they come from? Is it a sign from God? Is it just weird supernatural phenomena? But I think there are subtle hints that the military was experimenting with some sort of trans-dimensional device, and like there's basically a whole dimension of this shit, and they just opened a door and all that stuff came pouring into our world, and it's like, as bad as this is, you should see their planet. It's like, ugh. So there's all that going on too. But jeez. Yeah, like, I can only imagine. I've never actually read the book. I've only seen the movie, and that movie was crazy. Have you seen that?
Which one?
The Mist?
Oh, no, I have not.
It's powerful, because, like, you see all these demons, and you're like, I don't know what you're supposed to do. And then they just kind of keep getting bigger, and, like, toward the end of the movie, you see one really big one, and in that brief shot, it's like 20 seconds or whatever, you just kind of observe one of the larger demons, and it is shot so well. There's like such a feeling of like, well, that's it, I guess we lose. Like that's not how the movie ends, but like there's a shot in like later in the movie that just has that feeling. It's like, I don't know what the fuck we're supposed to do in the Mist. Like, what do you do? Like, even fighting the small stuff is like, we lucked out every single time. The medium stuff, haven't even taken out one of those. The big one, I don't even know. Like it's just kind of, it's incredible. Like the designs of these creatures is great.
I used to read a novel series called the Dresden Files. It's like a kind of, it's a modern swords and sorcery piece of fiction. And you know, in this universe, the Billy Goats Gruff exist, and they're like enforcers for the fairy kingdom.
That's great. So, that makes sense.
So Harry Dresden, he's fighting like these increasingly large like goats. Basically, at every turn, at every beat of the storyline, he faces a new like army of goats, and there's fewer of them, but they're bigger. Until all of a sudden, he fights this like gigantic goat, like this huge berserker of a goat, who he only beats by sheer luck because he triggers a trap that another wizard left behind that he happened to know about.
Wow.
And he shouldn't have been able to take this thing on in combat, despite being like one of the most accomplished wizards in the metaverse. You know, for that storyline.
Yeah.
And then as the guy's like laying before he like teleports back to the fairy kingdom, he goes like, wait till my older brother finds you. And he's like, oh my god, there's another
That's
one.
That's fantastic. That's really good. That's great. I got 2 more older brothers. That actually reminds me though, regarding being a super powerful wizard, but really though, some stuff is just tough to fight. Did you ever read Stephen King's The Eyes of the Dragon?
I have been looking to read that one. I had a recommended reading order for the Dark Tower series, of which that was an early one, but it's not available in Kindle form yet. So I have to actually go find a copy.
If we ever meet, I don't remember where it is, but I think I should have a copy.
If we ever meet.
But I mean, if we ever meet in the relative near future, if we ever meet before next year's MagFest, no, because like there's one. The reason I bring it up is that there's one part where like a powerful wizard wants to make like a particular kind of poison, and it's addressed that he's been raising the spider that he's been enhancing with all sorts of various magical spells. Like this thing's poisonous anyway, and it's become like super poison. And it's also become bloated, and the spider, like, just looks like... You know, if you look at it the wrong way, you'll probably catch something. Like, this thing looks awful. So the wizard's like, okay, I think it's time I use this thing's poison. So he takes this magical glove that he's also enhanced, like, 1,000 times to, like, prevent being infected by the poison. And he puts the glove on, crushes the spider in that hand so that the juices are dripping everywhere. And he's like, there, got the poison. And once he puts it in, whatever he needs to put it in, after he takes the glove off, his hand is still, like, red and swollen. It's like, god damn. Like, this thing must be serious. Like, people easily die to poisons that don't have that effect. Like, did you really need to go that far? It was just kind of amazing.
It is a difficult thing to do to escalate a villain once, like as a series continues. I mean, in a self-contained story like the Dresden storyline, you can have a punchline like that after several beats.
Yeah.
But like, this is the problem that Dragon Ball Z is facing. You know, they've like
now it's God, now it's blue, now it's blue God, now it's times 10. It's like, all right, just like it's like Super Boo said. Could we just say we're both invincible? Like just Goku doesn't even need the power up. Just have another guy that's on par with him. It's the same shit. Like, you
exactly.
don't have to wave a finger and blow up 10 planets.
If you know that Vegeta, who is the first main villain of Dragon Ball Z, can blow up the Earth, then like where do you go from there for subsequent fights? They just be able to blow up the Earth faster, or like
that's
blow
the
it
thing.
up more?
Like like when we really early in the series, he literally pointed one finger, shot a beam, took out that bug planet, and now we have Frieza. Oh, I'm gonna take out Namek. It's like, well, that's still impressive, but like Vegeta has done that basically.
To be fair, that never happened in the original manga, right? That was a filler episode for the anime.
Oh, so Frieza was the first planet buster?
Yeah, you would know this if you actually like read manga of things that you like to watch the anime.
You know what that reminds me of? Actually, I saw a really funny meme in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stardust Crusaders. You know, the one with Jotaro. Did you ever read or watch that?
I did read all of the first 6 parts of JoJo.
Okay,
but I never watched. But I never watched the anime.
Well, that's fine. But like, do you remember Steely Dan, the guy with the lovers, like one of the biggest pieces of shit in JoJo, which is saying a lot?
Vaguely, oftentimes, yes.
He was the guy who
he
was the guy who basically put his stand in somebody else, so that person would feel whatever pain he felt magnified by a bunch. So he would just take somebody hostage. So he was basically just making everybody's lives miserable for like 2 episodes, or in the manga, I forgot how long it took. But Jotaro finally, like, because every time he would make Jotaro do something awful, Jotaro would just break out a piece of paper and write on it. And Steely Dan's like, "What's this?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just keeping track of what you're making me do, so I'm gonna properly get you back." And at the end of the arc, or of the whatever it is, Jotaro just like beats the shit out of him and sends him flying. And then he takes the piece of paper and just goes, "And here's your receipt." And he like tosses it over his shoulder and it blows toward the screen, like the manga, whatever. Right. So like somebody posted a really funny thing of like the anime screenshot where that happens. It's like, "And here's your receipt," and the receipt blows into the camera, and then it says like, "Read the manga." It just really cracked me up.
So, like, I realize this because you watch the One Piece anime, but you don't read the manga at all.
It's so slow.
There's probably, like, a whole bunch of stuff that I have no idea happened in the anime at all that you think is part of, like, established One Piece canon.
Well, not. I mean, I'm
not
sure really. Like, there might be little things. There might be little things.
Yeah, like, you can tell. So, like, there are, like, do you remember the Buster Call when they were in the actual fights against, like, the guy who can turn into a bunch of balls? Like some of the vice captains that land and fight the Straw Hats while Luffy is fighting Lucci.
Uh-huh.
Like, those fights don't appear in the manga at all.
Oh, at all? But even those are quick. I don't even know who you're talking about.
Well, they do like conclude some of these fights that you don't get to see in the manga. I guess because they're just not a focus of the scene right now.
Well, that's the thing. There are little things. Like, One Piece has very short brief amounts of filler, and you can obviously tell, except for stuff like the Foxy arc. Apparently that was filler, even though it was actually really cool. But there are little things, like in the Dressrosa arc, they made kind of a big deal out of one of the Coliseum fighters rolling Logan, and in the manga, apparently he was there for a second, and then it was kind of like, well, all right, that's one guy. Like, they kind of gave him stuff to do in the anime.
Foxy had one real arc.
Oh, he did?
Like, the first one, the Davy back fight, that was an actual manga arc.
What, where there was, like, the boxing match?
Where there was the boxing match. With
that was, like, the conclusion of the anime stuff. They had all sorts of weird mini-games they were doing before that. They were playing, like...
No, yeah.
Soccer.
The soccer thing was real, and
that was real.
Yeah, and the race was real, and the boxing match was real, and it was basically a tone shift from the previous arc.
Yeah,
and,
so that wasn't filler then.
But Foxy came back more often in the anime, I think.
I don't know. I don't even know if I've seen him again, unless it was like a shout out, like remember Foxy, but I don't think he actually came back.
No. I have heard that Foxy is in filler. It might be a special, because there are specials that you probably don't see in whatever like streaming site you use. So like, I know that Minoru Suzuki, who's a famous Japanese professional wrestler, he plays a character in One Piece.
What?
In like a couple of episodes in like these like Chopper Man specials where Chopper is like a masked hero.
Yeah, I haven't seen those.
And I didn't realize this until Wrestle Kingdom, the big like wrestling the big like Japanese WrestleMania that happened back in January.
Yeah.
But he had a hair versus hair match where the loser had to shave their hair off.
Oh no.
And so he shaves his hair off, and he had a devil fruit haircut buzzed into his head.
That's amazing.
Because he's a huge One Piece fan. You can see it now because he had like hair over it that was.
That's super cool. Oh, well, that's actually also extra cool then. If he's that much of a One Piece fan and like he got to do a voice on One Piece, like that's living the dream. That's freaking amazing.
So I will say that he's a big anime geek apparently because he likes One Piece, but also his personality in wrestling is horrible. His epithet is actually Minoru Suzuki, the man with the worst personality in the world.
Whoa!
That's his name.
That's just like amazing.
He's just a complete asshole, and everybody hates him. He's just a brutal. He's pushing 50 actually. He's one of those guys who can survive as like just a blood and guts brawler who just wants to like break your arm.
Jesus,
like, shit in your Cheerios and
that's incredible.
So anyway, I see your semester started in our show notes. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I mean that's pretty much just letting people know my semester started. I mean it started like 2 weeks ago, but now it's a point where students are actually turning in essays like to be graded. So now I actually have like I'm gonna have homework to do like every week. So
no, homework. Well, I thought the point of being a teacher was that you give the homework.
Yeah, and then nothing happens. It grades itself, I guess. I fucking wish. But yeah, so I'll still try to stream when I can and everything like that. But I have homework now. So like now, yeah. I didn't count everybody's essays yet. I just collected what they gave me. But assuming everybody turned everything in, I should have 31 essays. And so far, I've only graded 2 of them.
Aww.
Hopefully, by the time people listen to this podcast, I will have graded more.
That's like 8% completion. You're not a very good gamer.
No, if I were getting a grade, it would be an F.
You sound like Mr. Ryu.
Actually, yeah, it kind of does.
For a second there.
He does do that. Everybody, Mr. Ryu.
Does he do that when he's been on the podcast? I didn't listen to his most recent appearance.
And he tends to play it more straight when he's on the podcast.
Aww.
Although speaking of Mr. Ryu, we had Let's Play Little Nightmares together a while back, and Little Nightmares has DLC, but it's released in installments, and the last installment comes out, I forgot the date, but sometime in February. So I would definitely like to see if we can reunite and play that, because like. Dude, more Little Nightmares.
You say that the same way you say, like, if we're ever in the same area, if we ever meet again. As though I couldn't, like, literally get in my car and drive down to your house, like, right now. I swear to God. Well, don't make me do it.
Well, with Mr. Ryu, it's a kind of a special case, though, because he's taking a class that's going to basically... That's pretty much going to be his life for the month of February. So it's actually going to be hard to hook up with him until, like, March.
Okay.
So we'll see where that goes.
It'll be something to look forward to. Do you like if it's a really short Let's Play like that, just like DLC for a game that's already pretty short? Like, would you like move it forward in your queue a little bit and try to put it up ahead of some other games?
I think I actually would move this forward on the grounds that it's not an additional Let's Play. It's just like because I've already Let's Played the game, so it's like more of this. Like I think I did that with Dreadout's expansion stuff as well, like Keepers of the Dark. I think I associated that with regular Dreadout. So with Little Nightmares, it'll be like, you know what? Here's more Little Nightmares. So I think I would bump that and just have that be sort of like just bonus content. Although speaking of, this isn't bonus content, but Dark Souls takes forever. It's 48 installments long, which means I put up one per day. So it's like if you don't like Dark Souls, see you in a month and a half, man.
You're not gonna like this channel for a while.
Yeah, oh boy.
It's 48 episodes of Lotus Prince length too, I assume, right? So it's like at least 30 minutes an episode.
Some of them are pretty damn long. Like several are like 40 to 50 minutes. But for that reason, like I did the same thing with Danganronpa. I did the same thing with Skies of Arcadia. Those are long ass Let's Plays. So I'm gonna put up my next Let's Play somewhere in the middle of Dark Souls, just for flavor. Because like number one, when it comes to Patreon requests, like I keep them waiting long enough as it is because I alternate my choice versus theirs. But also, again, Dark Souls is super long. Like, let's put up another one, and that'll be Sentient. I've talked about that a while ago, but I'm excited to put up Sentient.
It must be nice to be popular enough that you just get too many game requests.
It's like Metalocalypse. Like that's a problem you want to have. Well, it's like that meme with the guy with the limes. Was it like why can't I hold all these game requests?
Something like I don't remember what it was originally, but yes, I recognize the name.
It might have been limes. It was some citrus. It was lemons or lime. Why can't I hold all these limes? He's like smiling as he's dropping them everywhere.
I will be honest, I don't usually look up the origin of certain names unless it's so relevant to understanding what the name is about that I feel like I really need to know it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, there are some where there's like another level to it. But yeah. Although I think at this point I'm killing everybody here with my length. What have you been doing this week?
I've been listening to you mostly.
All week.
Monday
it feels like
week.
that.
I mean, if I wanted to, I could, right? There's a whole shitload of your videos that I've just never watched. I probably could listen to Lotus Prince for just days on end, and I wouldn't even hear the same thing twice.
You could do that with Danganronpa alone.
Well, that one I've already seen.
No, I know, but like there are some Let's Plays which actually could take you days.
Right, exactly, including. Well,
actually, I don't know about an individual, but close enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, this week was I mean, I haven't been on the podcast for about a month. I guess Pyro he finally got free for his schedule and he managed to restore his like status.
Yeah, his claim to the throne.
The third man on this podcast.
Yeah.
That's why I had to jump over basically everybody to get on this week.
Literally
everybody in the cast rotation.
It's your like special reveal.
Yeah, so I've been playing Tales of Berseria. I'm a big fan of the Tales series.
Nice.
And I got it as my Secret Santa gift for people who like continuity. I think I mentioned it during the MagFest.
That's
special.
right. That was from Luminaire, right?
Yep, it was from Luminaire. He's also a big Tales fan, and so thankfully I got him as the person who had to buy me a gift. So he knew he knew that would be something I really liked.
Yeah, he's the one who introduced me to Tales. He got me to play Symphonia in college. Right,
and I remember you playing Eternia.
Yeah, even with save states, that was a challenge.
Right. So this game, I've noticed that in the Tales games, the games have become more cinematic, which I like quite a lot. So they didn't used to have the budget, it seemed, to do the big like CGI or animated cutscenes like the Final Fantasy series and other games managed, but they did try to do a lot of in-engine stuff, and I guess like the time they had or the budget or the technology wasn't there to really convey a good fight scene or whatever. But sometime around like Tales of Xillia, they really hit an inflection point where some of the action sequences are super engaging to the point where it feels like a reward for winning a fight, and they even kind of play the fight scenes into cutscenes where combat is going on.
That's great. I've never seen that.
Yeah, you'll be running through a dungeon, and then all of a sudden you'll be basically in the same room, and there'll be like a really quick, scene cut, and you'll just be in the middle of a fight, and the storyline will go on right after that, and they'll find some time much, much, much later to show you the victory screen for that battle.
Oh, that's really clever, because, I think the most, I've seen I've seen Luminaire play a little bit of, like Vesperia or Abyss. I haven't seen real story stuff. It was still kind of doing the Symphonia thing, and yet if you go back and look at Symphonia now, like that is not a very cinematic, like in terms of engaging fight scenes game at all.
So the theme of Berseria is that there's this like demon blight that's turning people into demons. Some sickness they can't control, and you don't really know where it comes from. Although you know, since knowing how JRPGs are, you might not really ever get a satisfactory answer to that question. And you know, you in your hometown, a whole bunch of people turn to demons, and most of them die because you know it's a JRPG. You have to have a doomed hometown. You can never just live in peace. You have to have some reason to leave your house at the beginning of the day.
Yeah, like Pokemon is like as good as it gets.
Yeah. Well, yeah, your mom is still there. You have to go on a Pokemon journey. All the kids go on the Pokemon journey.
Yeah, all the cool kids do it. Yeah.
Well, this is not a Pokemon journey. This is a Pokemon journey if all the Pokemon were people and they died.
Yeah, from what I hear, Berseria is like, at least the main character story is like quite tragic.
It's very dark by comparison, even to other Tales games, which can get quite dark.
Yeah.
The one thing that really threw me is that so your character gets possessed by a very powerful demon, and you gain this arm that you can use to absorb demon blight infected characters.
Okay.
And you actually turn them back into human, but they die usually.
Oh wow.
So you get captured and thrown into jail, and you stay there for years, and you break out, and that's what incites the main storyline. And they're throwing demons to you, and you feed on them. They're basically using you to dispose of demons they capture.
Oh wow.
And like almost immediately after, I thought like, oh, these are demons. They're just killing everybody. They're totally feral. But then you get out of your cell, you break out, and like a lot of the demons are just like people. They just look like demons. They just sound like people. Like
yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho played with that a bunch.
So there's a dissonance there where I thought originally, and like the game hasn't made a mention of this yet. So like some of the people who have demon blight and just seem to manage to maintain their sentience. Like it's not clear to me if that's common for demon folk, or if there's something like something environmental that causes demons to go crazy, or if that will even become a plot point, and we just assume that people who are demon blighted just get killed. Or
that's interesting.
So I'm not. It's just one of those things. Like the storyline in a lot of JRPGs tends not to always be internally coherent or consistent. So I never assume just because there is a plot point in a game that I will get a payoff for it. And this feels like one of those things that just isn't really that important to the story the game is trying to tell. And I'm not really sure. And like it bothers me personally, so I'm not really sure how that's going to go later on. But we'll see. Otherwise,
that is quite interesting though.
Yeah. So yes, I'm pretty enthralled with the game. I just don't have that much time to sit at home and play like a long console RPG.
Yeah.
But I do try to get whatever time that I can. Usually like on Sunday I'll get up in the morning and I'll just sit and play for a few hours. So I'm making steady progress in it. Otherwise, I finally played the first hour of Owlboy. I know that Dracologist has recommended this to me several times.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but praise about that game.
So the reason I picked it up was because it was an early access bonus to the Humble Bundle for the monthly subscription. And I figured for $12 it was not a bad purchase. Usually I don't buy the Humble Bundles because they always have this like weird mixture of like maybe one game that I want that I can probably get for less than the bundle price on a Steam sale, and like a whole bunch of stuff I already have, because they do try to get like a bunch of a nice mixture of high-profile indie games and like one or two flagship games for every bundle. And they almost never have a whole bundle that I want. So the early access for this month was Civilization 6 and Owlboy for $12, plus whatever else that got released. So I was like, well, those are two games I probably want to have, and like I really want to play Owlboy, so I'll just subscribe. So yeah, I played about an hour of it. I want to say that I got a good impression of the game, and it was a lot of fun to play, but unfortunately most of that time was spent trying to like work out a good control scheme.
Okay.
So it feels like a game that was intended to be played with a dual analog stick, because the main character, like, he can pick up things to solve puzzles, but he's not a combatant. Like, the best he can do is stun enemies. So you have like a partner that you can pick up, and they shoot things with the other analog stick. And you can use a mouse if you're doing keyboard and mouse. So I was trying to use my DualShock 3, and something about the driver that I was using made it very difficult to get. It kept switching. It kept thinking it was in keyboard and mouse controls, and like I had to push this one button. I think it was R2 to get a swap back, which isn't something that I mapped personally. It just just wasn't working. I was getting really frustrated.
Yeah.
So eventually I just unplugged it and I went with keyboard and mouse, and I made some progress. It wasn't as bad.
Yeah, but from what I hear and from what little I've seen, that game is gorgeous to behold in terms of pixel and sprite art.
It's extremely well animated. It's a lot of fun to play a Metroidvania where your character can fly. Like, I think that's hard to do because it's hard to restrict your movement when you can already like fly at will.
Yeah.
If this game is as well regarded as everybody seems to say it is, then I guess they managed to pull it off. And
yeah, the main things I've heard about it are its beauty and also its legitimate, like, emotional depth.
So that's actually how the tutorial starts. The game teaches you the controls by having your mentor tell you to do things, and you'll do it a little bit, and then he'll tell you, no, you're actually terrible.
Oh, wow.
That's the tutorial. Like, you're learning to do things, and he's just abusing you emotionally. And eventually your character has a nervous breakdown right at the end of the tutorial.
Oh, wow.
So, like, that's the opening of the game. That's where you start. And, like, obviously things get worse, right? Because something must happen for the game's main conflict to kick off.
And not only that, but you're mute, right? And don't people give you shit for it?
Yes, people give you shit for being mute. Among other things. So it's just like the world is really opposed to you, except for the partners who do your shooting.
Sure.
So yeah, I'll see. Otherwise, I'm still playing Animal Crossing, the pocket version. It's the only reason I think it's interesting to bring up right now is because they launched an event that was just hellacious.
I seriously thought, for real, I seriously thought you were going to say the only reason it's interesting to bring that up now is that Monster Hunter World came out.
Well, who gives a shit about fucking Monster Hunter World?
Well, no, that's why I thought you were bringing it up as like a counter.
Fuck that game. Fucking 9.5? Seriously? People have no taste.
From what I've heard, it's fantastic, but go ahead about Animal Crossing.
Well, obviously those people don't know what they're talking about.
PS2 Monster Hunter is the only good one.
Actually, I've heard it's actually pretty bad.
That's what. The funny thing is
almost impossible to go back to playing it if you play any of the newer games.
Well, yeah, because like I was only aware of our friend Mr. Ryu playing like Try on the Wii. I think he played like one or two earlier ones though. But like back when game stores just had PS2 games, like back in that era, I had asked him, like I was like, hey, I'm in this store and I see Monster Hunter like for the PS2. Do you want it? And he was like, not really. Like coming from him, that it kind of threw me.
I honestly thought that it was Monster Rancher for the longest time. You remember that game for the
there
the
are like at least 4 of those, yeah.
So I thought that Monster Hunter was just another offshoot of Monster Rancher.
Gotcha.
for like a really long time.
Man, this aesthetic is so different. But yeah, anyway,
really, like all these monsters are killing me all the time. This isn't supposed to happen.
Yeah, wow. I thought I was the hunter. But yeah, so sorry about Animal Crossing.
No, it's fine. I almost don't want to admit that Animal Crossing is flawed in any way. It pains me to say this. So like most of this is a mobile game, so they have to release events on a periodic like rate to make sure people are invested and have a reason to continue to play the game and spend money on like the microtransactions and things like that. Mm-hmm. So my wife and I were both free to play. I just refuse to spend money on most mobile games.
I thought that the game was free to play.
I'm free to play it as much as I want. So, well, I think now it's like free to start. So Nintendo actually does this. They have I think I've mentioned this before. A couple of the games they have on the 3DS are considered free to play, but they call them free to start. What that means is they're free to the reason what distinguishes them from like standard pay to win mobile games is that you can't pay more currency than the cost of the game.
Oh wow!
Like so like they have a Picross game which is structured like a mobile game, but once you paid $40, you just get infinite energy and the game plays like a regular game.
Oh, that's so clever.
So yeah, I think that's a really interesting way to solve the mobile game problem. Granted, like most companies won't do this because they're funded by the people who pay like tens of thousands of dollars.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. But like that's interesting because you could still you still feel like you might want to pay, but you're not gonna like lose your house playing a fucking mobile game.
Right. I mean, like every time I go to the forums of some of the mobile games I play, which is necessary because if you are a free to play gamer, then you have to understand what the high level strategies are.
Yeah.
Because you can't just bulldoze your way through everything by spending money. And like you always see these like sob stories from people who say that they put like $10,000 in their credit cards because they got addicted to pulling the slot machine a few too many times.
Yep.
And it just aggregates over months.
No,
it's kind of scary.
We've actually talked about this on a podcast a long time ago. That this wasn't for mobile games, but this is about Luminaire's aversion to gambling. Are you aware of this?
I know that we went to Atlantic City and he didn't gamble, and that's totally fine.
No, the thing is, like, his father nipped that shit in the bud real quick. Because, like, it's not like he had a gambling problem and his father stopped it, but his father just showed him what gambling was like. So his father took him to some casino somewhere, and he took out a $20 bill and turned it into coins for a slot machine. And he was like, I want you to watch this closely. And he burned through his $20 in, like, a couple of minutes. And he was like, and that's why you don't gamble. And sure enough, Luminaire does not gamble. Like that was burned into his brain forever. And that's, like, a brilliant lesson. Like, even when we were at one of Vice's barbecues, we were playing poker, like, gambling just for the poker chips. There were no actual, monetary stakes. And I understand that people play differently when there's actual money on the line. So you could argue we weren't getting the true poker experience. But whatever, we were having fun. And then at some point, somebody was like, want to do this for, like, nickels or dimes or some really low stake stuff? And Luminaire was like, I'm out. Just, like, immediately. So, like, yeah, right. Honestly, good for him.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the same thing my dad taught me, basically the exact same way. I mean, he does occasionally go to Atlantic City or Las Vegas when they go on vacation, and he does gamble.
Well, if you give yourself a cap and actually enforce it, then, have fun. Like, go in expecting to lose however much money you brought in, and then you're good.
It's the same philosophy as the Nintendo gaming thing. You have to tell yourself, I'm paying $400 or $50
and
or
not
$1,000, whatever your personal cap is. You say, I'm paying this much money to enjoy myself at this casino. If I happen to win money, then that's great.
Good for you.
But that's not what I'm here. I'm spending this money for.
What you really need to tell yourself is that you are paying for the thrill of gambling. You're not going to try to win money, because if you don't stop until you win, then you're going to lose.
Right.
Unless you're really, really lucky.
Right. So Animal Crossing.
Right. That was the thing.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. So, like, most of the events are just, like, really simple grind fests where you hang out with your animals and you do favors for them, and they give you crafting material that you can use to make whatever the next, like, set of furniture that came out for your town. It's usually pretty simple, but they decided this animal came to visit called Rover, and it's a cat. You'd think it would be a cat if it's called Rover, but it's a little purple cat. It's actually, like, a really famous character from the series. I think Rover is the first character you meet in the first Animal Crossing game. Like, on the train, they're the one who asks you what your name is and, like, what your town's name is going to be. So it's kind of odd for the character to debut in such an important, like, for such an important character to debut in a side event, basically.
Yeah.
But they added this garden that I was paying absolutely no attention to whatsoever, because I just thought gardening in the game was really boring. You just, like, planted seeds and you would, like, crossbreed them, and you get more, like, different color. You get, like, different color seeds from the crossbreeding. I was like, this is really tedious. Yeah. It sounds like a little too much like homework, so I'm not going to bother.
Now, I was going to say, like, if you put yourself in the right mindset, though, you could kind of use that as a way to relax. Like, isn't that, like, 100% of the philosophy behind, like, Harvest Moon and stuff like that? Like, you're just doing a job.
So I think part of the reason they launched this event was to get people to pay attention to the gardening. And what happened was, like, there were specific flower seeds you could only get during this event, and if you planted one, it would have a small chance of spawning a butterfly, and then you could try to catch the butterfly, and you had a percentage chance of catching it.
Oh no!
So it was threefold RNG. You had a percentage chance of getting the seed, percentage chance of getting the butterfly, percentage chance of catching the butterfly, and you needed, like, a whole lot of these butterflies to get like all the rewards from the event. And then, like, I skipped the first 2 days of the event because I hated gardening, and I also had a business trip to go on, so I just wasn't paying attention to it. And I realized, like, this thing is actually only running for, like, 11 days, and 5 days in, they added another rarer flower seed and another 2 even rarer and harder to catch butterflies.
I hate that, because if you do, like, the full math, it's like you have, like, a 5% chance of getting this butterfly or whatever it is.
Yeah, so, starting from the seed, you had, like, a 8% chance of getting a particular kind of butterfly. And, like, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So I had to go down to the Washington D.C. area, close to where MagFest is, for a business trip, and so the request cycles where you can get these seeds are every 3 hours. So like I was driving myself crazy, and I knew that I couldn't really play the game while I was at the business trip because I can't just like pull out my phone, start playing Animal Crossing when I'm supposed to be like giving a major presentation or like talking to our company's directors or whatever. So like I stopped at a rest stop and I'm like, oh, it's been 3 hours. I guess I can do a cycle. Then I got like hang on guys, I can't eat lunch with you. I got to go out for a minute and go play, like do another.
I just love that idea. You're in the middle of like a conference and you just run out like, oh, I gotta get more bells or whatever. Like what?
It's like my sheep need me.
You're like I gotta go. You just run out of the room.
It's like, don't follow me. Don't look at me. It's hideous.
Yes.
So I mean, eventually by the end, they made it a little bit easier that you could like give butterflies to somebody else, and you would get seeds for free. Okay. And then they could catch them, and if they caught some of them, they could give them back to you, and you could trade back and forth. But the catch rate on the rarest butterflies were so low that there was like really high attrition when you were trading back and forth. And so like, imagine I give Minty Bits 10 butterflies, and she catches 3 of them. Now if she gives me 3, I catch 1 maybe.
If you're lucky, yeah.
So. And in the earlier parts of the event, that worked really well. So the first part I was able to complete and get all the furniture for my town. Mm-hmm. But the second one, like, I got all the unique items, but there was one item. It's a mug in the shape of the guy's face. And so at the end of the last day of the event, I had 23 of the rarest butterfly. I needed 7 more to get... I already had 1 of the stupid mug, the stupid rover mug, and I could have gotten a second one. If I just gotten 7 more butterflies, and I actually like all mobile games, they give you like some amount of the in-game currency just for free to keep you going, and I have like a lot of it because I don't really spend it on anything because I play the game often enough. I don't really need to. I could have just used my in-game currency to make sure I catch 7 butterflies, but by the end of that last day, I was so sick of it. I was just like, I'm not doing this. And so like every time I go to somebody else's town in the game and I see they had that second stupid face mug, I'm just like,
that second stupid face mug.
You
did this to me.
I was like, all I see around me are familiar faces.
Yeah, twice as many familiar faces.
So yeah, I guess the only other thing of note is that my wife and I went to the opera this week. Which was not something I ever expected to say. Not that I have anything against the opera. I just like never had any particular attachment to it. We went to see Pagliacci, which I don't know if you know that opera.
I've heard the name.
So, Pagliacci is Italian for clowns. It's like the original tragic clown. It's part of a school of...
Oh, I think I might... Okay. I think that's where I've heard the name from then. I am aware of this.
Yeah, so it's also a movie, so I'm sure even if he hasn't seen the opera, Vice probably knows about it too, and maybe he'll comment about it in the...
Yeah. It's called, isn't it like Pagliacci or something like that?
Well, it that might be a closer pronunciation to the original Italian.
Like Pagliacci or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. But the climax of the first scene has an aria, where the end of that aria is like one of the most famous moments in opera. That unlike the Ride of the Valkyries or like
like everybody knows the tune even if they don't know where it came from.
So everybody knows that, but they also often know that it comes from Ride of the Valkyries. But like this part of Pagliacci, nobody like I didn't know that it came from this opera. I just heard it a million times, like everywhere. It's in the Untouchables. It's in a bunch of stuff. It's in like Hey Arnold. It's in.
I actually have not seen either of those. I didn't grow up with Nickelodeon. I just haven't seen the Untouchables.
Well, yeah. So it's like the go-to music for like a building tragic.
Yeah, I suspect I might know what you're talking about. I can YouTube it or something and see if I'm right, but I think I know what you mean.
So yeah, like the first act climaxed, and he sung this song, and I was like, oh my god, I know this, like out loud.
that's gotta be so weird.
In the middle of the Metropolitan Opera House, and Lily got really mad at me.
Oh, you actually said it out loud?
At some point during a time when we were supposed to be quiet, I like.
Oh, that's funny. I was
like, I know this.
That's amazing.
I was a low class,
and just
asshole.
like 100 shh like around you. Like, sorry.
This was not like we were way up in the balcony, like the furthest seats. So there weren't really that many people around us, so I like to think I got away with it.
That's fantastic.
The story itself was excellent. So the idea is that Pagliacci, he's Pagliaccio. So Pagliacci is clowns, the plural.
Okay.
But Pagliaccio is the guy's name. I mean, his name is Canio, but he plays a character, the clown, like the Prince of Clowns.
Okay.
And they're a comedy troupe, and they're visiting this town, and he's got a wife who he took in off the streets, and they got married at some point prior to the opera, and she's got a lover in the town. She's cheating on him, and he finds out about this right before they're supposed to start the play.
Oh,
so
no.
this climactic opera is about how he has to put on his makeup and put on a smiling face and tell jokes when he's miserable about the fact that his wife is cheating on him, and it confesses to her lover that she's going to leave him at the conclusion of this last performance of their play. And it's part of this what was at the time like a new trend in Italian opera writing. I think it was called Verismo, where the idea was they wanted to tell fewer highfalutin stories about gods or kings or monsters. They wanted to tell more stories about the common man, and so the message of the opera was really straightforward. It was about having to put on a happy face, when you're dying on the inside. Mm-hmm. It's a true tragedy that is extremely relatable. It's a great story to listen to even now. It concludes, and it's told within the context of like a play within a play within a play, and I like the way they did it because I'm sort of used to metafiction being like, for example, Ready Player One, where the whole thing is just a bunch of is targeted towards the audience. It's all these references that the audience is supposed to get, and you acknowledge the audience and you make them part of the show. Mm-hmm. But these something like Pagliacci, something like this Verismo play, the focus is still on the actors. Even though it's clear they're telling a story within a story, they're using it to make a statement about the human condition. And they're using it to throw the audience off. There are times during the second act where they do the performance where the characters on the stage who are playing these parts in the play, they'll deliver, they'll do a scene. And usually in an opera, there's a few beats after every scene where the audience, the real audience, is supposed to clap.
Yeah, of course. Like any play.
To give the opera time to breathe. To give the actors time to get into. But in the performance, the audience in the play claps, and there's no time for the rest of the audience to take in and decide how they're supposed to react.
Oh, that's interesting.
The audience at the Met for the first bit got really confused. People start clapping when they aren't really supposed to be clapping, and it really throws off the rhythm of the audience. Mm-hmm. It really draws you in and tells you to pay attention to the play. I thought it was really well constructed. I really enjoyed it. It's my first. I think it's my first opera. I've been to the theater a bunch of times, but I've never been to an opera before.
I've never seen an opera.
So Pagliacci is usually performed as part of a double bill with another opera called Cavalleria Rusticana, I didn't really take to that one quite as much. I didn't really understand quite what it was about in the same way. But they're both excellent. Obviously, we're watching it at the Met, so there was a decent chance that you're going to get pretty good talent attracted to.
Yeah.
But I had a good time, and I'd recommend it if you're looking into the fine arts. Otherwise, that was my week.
That does sound interesting.
We took up a lot of time just talking about ourselves, so who the fuck even needs anybody else?
Well, we do have time for a question, I think. So Jess asks, what loot would you drop if someone kills you? That's a very Ask Reddit kind of question.
Yeah. Is this our friend?
I think so. This was something that Minty Mitz had requested before.
Oh,
just gave us a shout out for this question.
Yeah, she had posted it as a Facebook status quite some time ago, and I remember I had answered this on her status, so I guess you'll get my.
Oh yeah,
so
I only heard on PM. But...
You can do yours first if you thought about it.
All right. I mean, if you want me to be cutesy and literal like I usually am, it's what I would probably have on me, my wallet, genius. But if I were some video game character and I dropped loot, it probably would be something like that, just like some game DVD or Blu-ray or something. I don't know.
Nice.
I'm very creative.
I always thought it would be like sheepskin, or
Oh, okay.
So and I tried to take it a step further when I answered this question and tried to imagine what like my rare steal would be, like it was JRPG, and I would imagine that like so I thought of I was reminiscent of like Final Fantasy 12, which I don't know. I know you've watched Luminaire play this, but
it's
I don't know
been
how,
a while.
Like, so like in 12, like if you go up and try to steal from a wolf, sometimes you get like a wolf skull. So it's like, did you steal the skull?
Yeah, does he have
wolf?
another one?
Like where did you get two? Did you just take it out of his
It's like
head
in Mortal Kombat, some fatalities, like you uppercut a guy's head off, but 3 heads fly off, and it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's an ontological mystery. So. So I toyed the idea of that being a rare steal, but I decided that it would be like a 1/64th scale golden sheep statue.
Yes.
Just like, it was like a Star Ocean thing. I don't know if you know, like, so in Star Ocean 3, I know there's like the bunny statue and like the bunny, like, there's the game, that series has something about bunnies. So like the bunny shoes in that series always make you run or like either on the world map or in combat like super fast.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do map exploration in the 3rd Star Ocean game, you get like a 128th scale bunny statue.
Okay. It's so weird. I don't remember that. Either I just don't remember that, or Perry just didn't get that while he was playing. But I did watch him play through a lot of 3.
Yep. Man, it would be super interesting to have Perry on this podcast someday.
That would be. He always seems like, the most interesting man in the world whenever we discuss him on the podcast.
Well, I don't know. Like right now, we just talked about him playing Star Ocean 3. That's not very interesting.
That's the most interesting thing.
That's it. That's the best you've got.
Yep.
Why do we even have you on this?
That was the best we got. I don't remember him getting the bunny shoes. That's the statue. That's the best I got.
He might have gotten the bunny statue. Yeah. I know
maybe, but I don't think so. Best story.
He and I both got the 500 chain thing, the one where you have to win like 500 battles in a row without really getting hit.
Yeah, there were some ridiculous battle trophies, like, like all of your party members must be petrified, but you don't lose.
I remember that one. Win with all your party members petrified. Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, I didn't know you could do that.
In most games, that's an instant game over, so how is it even possible?
Yeah, I was curious about that. And there's also, like, kill enemies by MP draining them instead of HP draining them, and it's like, man, I don't even know how I'm supposed to do that. Or, like, land a hit that's like 7/7/7 damage or quad 7 damage, and it's like, I hope you're not over leveled. Or like beat the entire game with your combined party level being no greater than like 5 or 7. It's like, no. No.
Yeah, I did some of them, but then I wound up, so like I was actually like making a lot of progress on that game, on the battle collection, and then I lost my memory card. So there goes that game.
Yeah. I do remember, though, he played through the Coliseum, and, like, what was always cool is that you can go as far in the Coliseum as you want. So he was seeing weird, like, late-game enemies because he just stuck around the Coliseum, and, like, the designs got cooler and cooler. I was like, this is, like, I love stuff like that. Like,
that was, if I'm not mistaken, like, the announcers come down and fight you.
Yeah, eventually you fight the announcers, and I remember the male announcer was distinctive, and that he could actually block, because you can't block in Star Ocean. And this guy had a shield, and it was like, that just really threw me off. Like, little things like that. Like, in the very first Yakuza, like, there's a particular boss who can lift up, like, couches and throw them, and, like, you're the only one who's allowed to do that. So that really threw me off. Like, all of a sudden, like, another enemy. Or, like, there's even the beat-em-up Growl. Do you know Growl?
I do not know Growl.
Alright, well, whatever. It's a beat-em-up where you could pick up, like a lot of beat-em-ups, you could pick up objects and throw them at enemies, and in some cases you can even go as far as like picking up like cars and stuff like that. But there's this one boss who fights you, and there's like a tank in the area, and that's way too heavy even for you, but he can pick it up, and you're like, oh, like, and all of a sudden it's like really scary, even though it's a basic game mechanic, but you just can't do it and he can.
That is like how, like, it kind of gets at the heart of things like the Dark Souls games and some other difficult games like God Hand, is that like usually in games the player and the enemies don't play by the same rules, and that is often used for balance. Like in the Dragon Quest games, the bosses are far more powerful than the hero characters, but they have this stupid AI roulette that keeps them from overwhelming you unless you get incredibly unlucky.
Yeah, and enemies rarely heal themselves in any game. Right. Yeah.
But in the Dark Souls games, like the phantoms that invade you, even the AI controlled ones, they play by all the same rules you do. They have all the same moves.
Yeah, and they know how to dodge roll, which just like what? Right. Yeah,
Sometimes,
they can use Estus flasks. Yeah.
Yeah, so like fighting games do this too, and the AI is at a very high level. Sometimes they're even cheating a little bit by reading your inputs.
Yeah, actually, you know what really got me was Double Dragon Neon. the final boss with Skullmageddon, technically this is kind of a scripted combo, so it only half counts, but he wall combos you. I've never seen any game do that. I was like, no way! Like,
it's like, it's not breaking the fourth wall, it's kind of leaning on, like, the first wall.
Yeah, like, I've never seen a game like, because it's one thing when, like, a lot of players, if they can find the easiest way to beat an enemy, then that's what they'll do. Even if it involves, like, I don't have the talent to beat this guy, I'll just shoot him from arrows from far away, or I'll spam this attack. But if the computer spams an attack, like, you call bullshit and how, like, full of cheating it is. So it's, like, weird when some enemies, like, knowingly, it's not a weird AI quirk, like, some enemies knowingly spam stuff. Like, even, like, again, going back to One Piece, just the manga or the anime, like, Gecko Moria, the boss of Thriller Bark, he spammed. And, like, that just kind of threw me off. I've never seen, like, a hero or a villain in a show, not a game, a show, spam. That really threw me off. Like, he just used brick bat over and over. It's like, I don't know, it works. I guess I'll just keep doing this. I'm like, wow, huh. Like, I didn't know you could do that, even though it should be common sense.
The other thing, too, is that in fiction, a lot of times they make the villain stupid, you know, or they make the villain more powerful than the hero, but they
yeah, that's the thing. Or at least everything escalates. But this guy's like brick bat, and it repels the hero. And then, like, then, you know, he runs away, and you can't fight him, you gotta beat his henchman. And then when you see him again, brick bat. And it's like, dude, come on! Like, I'm getting a little frustrated.
This is actually, like, since you haven't really watched the genocide route of Undertale, like, this is actually what gets a lot of people in the final boss fight of that route, in that, like, he starts giving his opening monologue, and then before it's over, he starts, like, a really dangerous attack.
Oh, clever.
Like, in the middle of it. And then after that, he says, like, I don't know why people don't just use their best attack at the start. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. No, that actually reminds me. You ever see Blade 2?
I have not seen that.
I love that movie. But there's one thing, which, again, I've never really seen this done in fiction, and it's cool to see when it actually happens. Like, it's like that famous scene in, I think it's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, when, like, a bad guy's monologuing, and the good guy just fucking shoots him. And it's like, if you're gonna shoot, don't talk. Well, there's a scene like that in Blade 2, where Ron Perlman, like, you could tell he's been wanting to fight Blade for, like, the whole movie, but, like, circumstances have indicated that they'd be reluctant allies. But toward the end of the movie, finally, we're getting this fight scene. And it's just like, you know, Blade just kills, like, you know, 15 henchmen, and Ron Perlman's like, well, you got him. Guess it's time for me to get involved. So he's doing his slow pace walk, and he's like, well, like my daddy said before he killed my mommy, if you want something done right, you gotta do it yourself. And he pulls his sword out all slowly, and he goes, he also said, and he, like, just takes a quick shot, and I was like, oh, nice. Like, it's like, I just don't see that happen ever.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this sounds like an excellent question for our viewers to ask about what sort of tropes we like to see subverted in media.
Yeah, right.
So I think that's a good time for us to say that's the show for this week. We would like to thank all of our fans who contributed questions, or we would like to thank Minty Mitz for contributing questions on their behalf. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own on the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs up, likes, and 5-star ratings in iTunes. It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. Not that anybody managed to show up for this week's podcast anyway.
He manages to keep the show going when somebody feels like showing up.
Somebody. Nice.
Somebody.
You can also catch us on Thursdays on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness. Spoiler alert, it's also just going to be the two of us then, too. The in-depth look at this week in our lives, literally me and Lotus Prince. Finally, you can friend our fearless leader as Vice the Bold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, and Twitter, where he can explain to you what he's doing. That's just so much more important than being on this podcast.
Or Battle.net.
I forgot about that. That's not in the script.
Oh, what? We're ad-libbing this now?
Yeah, we're flying blind.
What has science done?
So anyway, how about you?
Oh.
Where can we find you?
Well, you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can catch me on, or hit me up on, I should say, Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, or even selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And as we covered today, he will even insert you in the middle of an existing Let's Play to make sure that your request gets heard in a timely manner.
before Dark Souls is over, I gotta say, like, Let's Plays take a while. Some is timelier than others.
In the middle of another Let's Play.
Right in the middle, doing it, sticking in the middle.
Right in the middle of somebody else's request.
No. It's alternating. So Dark Souls is me. So it's right in the middle of...
I know. It's false advertising.
This is
I'm a terrible...
This is slander. I will not tolerate this. Except I'm clearly tolerating it.
What's the quote in print? It's libel. It's the...
Yeah, that Spider-Man quote. I love that.
Yeah.
No, it's not. I resent that. Slander is a spoken word, and writing it's libel. I just love that, because I love Tobey Maguire's reaction, because it's like, you're right, but that's so far beside the fucking point. Like, it's just like, Homer, like, he may have all the money in the world, but there's one thing he can't buy. A dinosaur. It's like, he is right, but that's still stupid.
That sounds like The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can find me as OldManStompy on most major gaming and social media networks, except for Steam, or I'll be playing Owlboy badly. So, until then, everyone.
Until
thanks for
next
listening.
time, everyone.